along with finding the wrong people for your community. Let's go on to the first slide, please, Swati. Okay, so what is the agenda of today's call? I've given you a little bit of a brief already, but I'm going to still take you through a detailed agenda. Number one is once you've chosen your champion, what do you do next? The second is, can we judge a book by its cover? What this means is not every champion that you select on the first call or on the first interaction is going to actually turn out to be great. You are going to be making mistakes, and that is absolutely fine. Now, what do we do? How do we filter our champions? How do we be smarter with whom we are bringing on board? We found a rotten egg. What do we do now? Why I've called them a rotten egg is because the wrong community member can influence other community members also to work against you. So how do we make sure that we filter in time and get that person out? What is it that you should be doing to make sure that your community is kept clean? Knights, how do we bring them into the next battle? Now, while you will find people who might not be the right fit or who might be terrible for your community, you will also come across people who would actually be knights in the shining armor and would do a fantastic job at your community. Now, how do we make sure that we keep getting these people back into the community? What is it that can terribly go wrong? We're going to go through a few examples of things that have gone terribly wrong, and I'm going to tell you what we did to fix them and what's not as bad as it seems. There are certain things that give us a lot of anxiety. You know, what if there are 4 people who end up not liking the food, or if they end up not liking the product that we have to offer? What if they have to come back and they threaten us that they're going to go, there are a negative feedback? While all this is going to come to your mind when you're working on a community aspect, but there will be ways in which they can be sorted, and you will realize that it's not very difficult to actually solve these issues. We can go on to the next slide, Swati. Yeah, so we're going to begin with an example. Let's go with the first example, Swati. So we've had a great call. We are onboarding community members. There's a community aspirant. We feel that they are really, really cool. We've invited them onto an offline event that we're doing. However, despite the fact that everything seemed fine, the person was brilliant to talk to. This also seemingly is an influencer, has a good reach and presence, and has a really authentic community. However, when they came to the event, they came to the time that the event was closing, closer to the time the event was getting over. So the event was meant to be between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. and this person arrived at 6. We still welcome them because that's our job. It's all right. Someone's late, not a problem. We did our best. We get them all that's possible towards the end. Now, this is an event which deals with workshops that we start off with a sushi making and a ramen making workshop. Then we go on to do a cocktail mixing. Towards the end, there's hardly anything left to do. Workshops are over. All that's left is that we can offer the food that we made, and we can tell them and we can spend some time with them just to make sure that they don't feel left out. They leave seemingly happy that we've come out, we've talked to them, we've done all of that, but they post terrible feedback. Now, what here did actually go wrong? We can go on to the next one, Swati. There are 2 situations that happen. And this I'm speaking from my perspective. The first situation is that we believe that we did a terrible job, right? We weren't prepared for people coming in late. We should have been prepared. And we should have made it a point. We have the venue, keep things ready for late joiners, right? Even if someone comes at 6 p.m., we should still be doing a cocktail making session again for one person. The second situation is that we have positive responses from everybody except for this one person. So they should have reached in time. We did not assess well during our call, and we need to break ties with this person. We should make clear to our community to respect schedules, our effort, and time. Now, very evidently, situation 1 seems like a buzzkill. It is not what is going on, right? So a lot of times when you're faced with an issue like this, what we need to do is sit down and assess the entire situation in depth. And these are the 2 things that came to our mind when we sat down and assessed what could have gone wrong. Very clearly, situation 1 is that we did not do a terrible job because everyone else gave us really good feedback. We weren't prepared for people coming in late. Ideally, we should not be prepared for people coming in late. The aspect should be very simple. We are dealing with a big number of people here. We should ensure that if people are coming, that we make clear to them that please arrive in time so that you don't miss out, right? We should have made it a point that we have the venue keep things ready for late joiners. That also is not a possibility, because when you're working with those many people, to make special to make special pro, uh, unnecessary adjustments for a person who's arrived late, and then to get the venue that's been through the entire event with you and has done a very good job, has made sure that your guests are going back happy, to put that pressure on them to redo everything. Because a lot of times what happens is, once an event is done with, the venue is prepping for the next event that is happening there, or mostly these events happen on the weekend, so they're going to have footfalls after our event. We shouldn't be arm twisting them to keep themselves available for our creator to feel happy just because one person's arrived late. Very clearly, situation one is not a good to go situation. Whereas a second situation where we should be cutting ties with this creator for arriving late and being entitled enough to still post bad feedback about us, we should make it clear to our community the next time onward that if you are late, unfortunately, you will miss out. So the best way in which you can deal with it is to make clear to your community that they have to arrive in time and respect our time and schedule. So here we were dealing with a wrong community member, someone who was very, very entitled, possibly someone who gets invited to events and has had the habit of throwing their weight around because they were an influencer. And we do not need those people on our community. We need people who will grow with us. Let's go on to the next one, Swati.
Sorry to interrupt, Megha. What about if the person puts a positive review?
If the person puts a positive review, that will be a no-brainer, because ultimately you have done what you had to. See, this was not it depends on what the end goal is of the people who are attending your event, right? Our end goal was that we wanted people to come, enjoy experiences with various brands, go back and create a reel. Now, if they don't like the event, the best thing to do is to not create the reel, and that we'll be okay with. That you did not have a good time, no worries, please don't post. But to post a negative review despite being late clearly indicates that this is a wrong community member. I'm not saying that it is very clear that a person is either good or bad. There will be mistakes even from our end. But if a person's stepping on your tail, going out of the way to put you down because they've been entitled, that is a poor community member. Positive reviews we got from everybody else, but from this one person, because we got a negative review, we knew that we are not supposed to be entertaining this person any further, because the one thing that that person could have done is not post anything at all, because they have that available, they have that opportunity, that if I'm not enjoying the event, I will not post a reel about it. And we let people know when we onboard them that you are entitled to post only if you actually enjoy the experience. If you don't, we will not force you to post anything. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
So ultimately, the idea is that we have to choose our champion wisely. We have to understand these things before we start onboarding for community. In communities, there is mutual respect, trust, and benefit. So if you guys had heard clearly what I'd mentioned yesterday also, we do this from a very personal level, where we personally meet people, we personally talk to them, we invite them personally, we spend time with them. The reason we do that is because we are building a sort of a tribe where all of us coexist and we are all happy together. So in a community, your community members will trust you, will respect you, and both parties benefit out of being associated with each other. People learn to love you and are more accepting, in fact, helpful during little hassles. They're like family. So a lot of times it so happened that at an event, I'm busy with, setting up a display, for example. Maybe there's an alcohol brand that's come on board and we are making a display at the bar. And there are a few people who've arrived early. These people now have become so fast with us that they will come, they will chit chat with us, and they will also start working on setting up the display along with us. There was an event that we did at a cooking studio, which was a cooking workshop, where one of our community members came forth. There was a big board out there, and they with chalk wrote down the Brand Fueler Taste Sutra event. And when I asked her why she's doing this, she just said that my handwriting is really nice and I really want something to capture. So that is how it becomes eventually. People start coming to you because they feel at home with you. The right member sticks with you through thick and thin. So even if there are problems at an event, for example, and there are multiple problems that can happen, forget event, even if you're doing something online, right? If you've sent products, if let's just say the product that has come to the person has come with a defect. So these people are not going to go all out and scream and shout, and they're not going to post negative nonsense on social media. They'll inform you and they'll let you know that it's fine and that they have the time. No worries. A lot of times they've still gone ahead and posted it, saying that the defect is a very manual, a very human error. That's not your fault. So don't worry. I'm going to create this content. Please just make sure that you get this replaced. You take your time and do it. So that's how a community works with you. They stick with you through thick and thin, and communities grow with you. How a community grows, I'm going to, how they benefit from us, I will throw light upon that as well in the following slides. However, the wrong member isn't in the community for shared interest, but for freebies, giveaways, and money. There are multiple people out there. We've spoken about this yesterday as well, who are part of multiple communities only because they want to go to a free event, they want to get free food, they want to get free stuff from brands representing the event, they want giveaways, they want money. They're not there because they want to actually, they genuinely care about the community, they genuinely care about the shared cause in the community. They won't accept even the slightest error, like this person that I just talked about. They'll jump to spread negative word of mouth because that is their way of asserting their dominance over brands, over agencies, over businesses that are in this business. Once they've taken money, incentives, freebies from you, they'll head into the next event, which would most likely be from one of your rivals. They don't care. There is no loyalty with these people. They've been used to doing this for a very long time, and then that's what they do. That, okay, fine, I have no personal agenda to stick around with one community. I'm going to go to the next one. I don't care. They aren't in this for growth. They're in this for monetary gain. You'll be surprised at how many influencers at this point are only working with brands without any consideration on how long that network will last, how long they can actually continue to work with them. Their agenda is this one time I am getting this money or this product from this brand and our collaboration is over. That's how they sustain. But the problem is that this very momentary gain. There is no long-term value in this. People like this are identified not only by us, but by any community builder or any brand. Brands have become very conscious of this kind of people, and they've also started locking these people out of their systems. So they're there for the momentary gain. These are the things that we have to make sure of when we are doing. And when we are onboarding people, we shouldn't be under the impression that that one phone call will suffice. You will actually do real-time filtration when you sit down there with your community, which is exactly why I attend all of my events, to filter. That's also one very important part of the process. That this person, I remember by name every time that I go to an event, that these are the people who shouldn't be invited again because they don't fit the bill for me for various reasons. So this is what you need to bear in mind when you're choosing your community member. Let's go on to the next slide, Swati. Now, to give you a clearer picture, I have drawn out three examples of three real examples of real incidences that have happened, so you get an understanding of how I discriminate between the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the first example is of Karishma Google. She's been on our community for 7 years now. This person I had onboarded when she was, and I had spoken about yesterday as well. Very cool person who loves to travel, loves to go out, find great new brands, products, talk about them, loves to explore. Now, she's been on the community ever since I was working on the community for Little Black Book. It's been over 7 years now. She's always in time, very inquisitive and chirpy. So she's at a community event. She's going to be one of the first few people who arrive. She's going to be very well mannered. If she's the first person who's arrived and there is no one else out there, she's going to sit there and wait, and she's going to chit chat. She's going to start helping us with whatever we are doing. For example, we were making a cheese board for a wine and cheese event. She came in, she started setting up the cheese board along with me while she was chit chatting with me. She ended up making multiple friends through the community. Every time Karishma comes to an event, she already knows 2 or 3 people whom she has made friends with on some other event of ours. And I remember the last event that I saw her at, there were 2 people who literally howled when they saw her because they'd seen her after a long time. and they'd also met through our community. So overall, she's just someone who brings in a lot of life to the event. She's also hosted events on our behalf. Now, this is one way in which they also benefit from us. Aside from the great time that they have enjoying with us and going to these events and enjoying these experiences, we also put them on the forefront. We also give them a platform to celebrate them, which is why I have had multiple instances where I've taken a step back and allowed one of my community members who's been very actively working with us to host the event on our behalf, which just basically puts them on a platform. So she's done that for us multiple times as well. Then we have the bad. Shelly Singh. This is the example of the same. This is the same person whom I'm talking about who arrived late and posted a negative feedback. She showed up at an event at 6, which was supposed to end at 7. Did not interact with anyone. Believed she was superior since she had 120K followers. Interrupted the host to give her freebies since she had to leave for the next event. So while I was actually physically speaking to people and conducting a session, she came to me and she told me that she needed to get her freebies, which was a bottle of alcohol, because she had to head to the next event. She posted terrible feedback about the event, criticizing the brand. So now she's taken a bottle of that alcohol and she's gone and written a negative feedback, not about us alone, but also about that alcohol brand, saying that it tasted bitter. And this was not exactly a cheap brand. This was a very decent rum brand called Kamikara. It is a sister organization to Indri. So it's well known. It's an Indian rum, which is actually not even cheap. It's a 1500 bottle rum. So this was our bad. And then when we talk about ugly, that's another level of bad. So there's this person called Dolly Mohindra who promised us 3 reels and bagged an opportunity to go to a 5-star property based out of Nokuchiatal with her friends. So we were working with a 5-star property. It was a beautiful Airbnb based out of Nokuchiatal, where we were sending creators. This person had acquired a few followers, and she we spoke to her. We sent her to Nokuchiatal along with a bunch of her friends. Unfortunately, these people got very, very drunk. They smashed bottles on the terrace. They forced the caretakers to wake up at 3 in the morning to feed them something, which was extremely sad because we'd made clear to these people that after 11, these just how it is in an Airbnb setup, that you can place your final order by 10:30, and 11 o'clock, post 11 o'clock, people won't be available at your beck and call. But they still forced our caretakers to wake up at 3 in the morning. They criticized the venue. They made them pay for conveyance back to the bus stop. So they criticized the venue because this is a property in Nokuchiatal where they had a special thali, which was an Uttarakhandi thali that they would make for lunch. And these people had very lovingly organized an Uttarakhandi thali for these guys. But these people got very pissed off because they wanted to eat dal makhni and paneer and roti. They were your typical Delhiites who wanted North Indian food. So they created a lot of trouble at the venue, and the caretakers had to make food again for them. And then after that, they arm twisted the caretakers, saying that, listen, we are women and we have to go to the bus stop. How can you send us on our own? You should arrange for commute for us. So whatever you have to do, please do. But you will have to make sure that you send us to the bus stop. So the caretakers had to arrange for a cab for them to go back to the bus stop. This is the ugly. And unfortunately, when you are stuck with this was a very sticky situation because we did not really know what to do. We can't call the police on them. We cannot stop serving them. We can't ask them to leave because we had invited them. Calling the police will make no sense. There was absolutely nothing we could do but just wait this time out. That there are 2 days that they're here for. Let's just do what we can and get rid of them. And these guys posted nothing. They did not post anything. They just posted a negative review about the venue. So this is your ugly. It doesn't get worse than this. So yeah, this is a breakdown. Anybody, any questions, please feel free to ask. No? Okay, let's go on to the next slide, Swati. Yes, now how do we engage with and retain the good? What do we do so that people like Karishma Go will stay with us? Number one is we create opportunities, which is that we involve them with more of our activities. Example, we ensure that we send them an invite for anything that's happening. We put them on top of our list. We make sure that they are as involved with us as possible. We keep sending them invites. We keep bringing them back to our events. We block a slot at each interaction. That this slot is blocked for XYZ, and we're going to make sure that she attends. Right? We allow them to take center stage at our events. Like I said, we allow them to host events on our behalf. So we make them the face of our brand every now and then. We ask them to help. So we a lot of times we make them feel like, you know what, this is your house. This is your family. So when you're here, come, please stand with me. Why don't you help me out with this decoration, or why don't you help me out with this display? And they're very happy to do it. And every time that we're hosting an event which deals with a topic that they are interested in, we let them take the center stage and we let them handle everything from scratch. So this way, they not only feel like they are a part of the family, they also get a lot of visibility because all of the other people who are coming are posting about them on how they hosted. This was hosted by XYZ. She did a very good job. She was very welcoming. She organized some really cool games. That's how we do things. So if you would look at the images that I have attached here, the first image is of, and when I say community, guys, it is important for you to note that it is not only the community you've onboarded, but also the people that you're working with. For example, the first image is we hosted an event at Chika Loka, Noida. The first image is of the DJ who was there. And we ensured that we post about her as well, because that is how you invite people into your community. You give them a great time working with you so that they keep working with you. They offer you their space again. The first image is of the DJ who was at Chika Loka. So Brand Fueler made it a point that they posted about the DJ also. The second image is of the head chef at Chika Loka. His name is Vaibhav Bhargav. He's quite a senior chef. And he himself he flew down from Bangalore to host our lasagna making workshop. So here he's lovingly standing with a child, and that child is the son of one of our community members. He did a really good job. So we posted about him as well. The third image is of Abhishek Harrison. He's the head of marketing at Kamikara Rum. So we ensured that we do a shout out for him as well. The last image is of Sahil Baweja. He's the owner of Chika Loka. So what you can see here is that we involve everyone to come together. It is the community members, they come together, have a great time, but even the people who are hosting with us, we make an effort to make everyone feel like family, that this is our guest, this is our host group, that they're the ones who are all coming together to give our community a great time. And everyone outperforms this way when they realize that, yeah, we are here to do a great job, and the community also enjoys 10x in this way. Let's go on to the next slide, please, Swati. How do we build better with the bad? Now, this is very interesting and also a little complicated. Just because someone's bad doesn't mean that we completely remove them from our circle. You know they're not your crowd, but be tactful, right? You have to understand that ultimately it is an image building game, an image building mechanism. And you don't want to have anybody go off with a bitter taste in their mouth. You'll have to be tactful. There is no point in shouting, screaming, yelling, abusing with anyone on the community. You have to be very decent. You should never disrespect. You should not overcompensate either. So it takes a lot of manipulation, a lot of understanding of how to communicate with a person who's losing their mind to be able to manage this balance. But what I mean by overcompensate is, if a community member who is not being his best self comes and tells you that because you've been so bad, why don't you give me 3 bottles of alcohol, or why don't you give me a free stay somewhere? There's no point in doing that. If you do that, you're making a terrible mistake, and you're getting everyone else used to the fact that they can come back and arm twist you. So that's not something you should be doing. Don't be afraid of pushbacks. Remember, you have a tribe that's got your back. So if someone tells you, I'm going to post a negative feedback or a negative review, please ask them to go ahead and do it. Because there's no way in which you're going to be impacted if you're doing a good job with your community. The positives of your community, your good community members have got your back. And when you've built the right relationship with them, they'll come back and post positive reviews for you. So that one negative review is going to entirely be overshadowed. So do not be scared of pushbacks. Stop interactions if there is zero scope of future collaboration. The only time that you should feel that, okay, this is not going to work out, this person is definitely not meant for my community, just do not interact with that person, and do not care that you are seeing a drop off. As long as the number of drop offs you're facing are fewer than the number of onboards that you're making, you are good. So you just have to make sure that your drop-off rate is less than your onboarding rate. Let's go to the next slide, Swati, please. Yes, and what about the ugly? It's very simple. Blacklist. There is no point in going on and on with a person who's given you a tough time. In fact, you will be so pissed at that person or that community member that you yourself will not go back to them. But be vocal about this experience of yours with your community. You should use this as an advantage. You should let your current community know that there is something like this that you have faced, right? Because your community will also understand the kind of difficulties you go through when you're managing something like this, when you're managing people. That increases their affinity towards you as well. Keep a keen eye. Make sure that you know what you are doing next. You've got a poor example, lead from that example, learn from that example. Don't go back to an influencer who is going to do something similar again. Be very careful the next time that you know that you're inviting an influencer to a place or a community member to a place where you will have very little control on how to handle a situation. This was a trip. People had gone to a resort which was very, very far away from where I was operating. Had I been there physically, I still may have been able to do something, but be extremely careful if you know that you're not going to be there at the situation to contain it when you're sending somebody over to a place. Don't be afraid of negative word of mouth. Most times, your terrible community members are people with large egos but zero power. Very, very important. Anybody who's trying to throw their weight around is someone who's not actually lifted any weight and has not struggled. Humility comes with struggle. So if there's someone who's behaving like that, is most likely not got any power. And don't be afraid of negative word of mouth. One person's not going to change the game for you. Like I said, you have a really solid community backing you. Just be authentic with your current community. Be great with your current community. Keep the filtration on. Don't be scared that this person's going to post one negative feedback and that's going to impact you. We've been doing this. I personally have been doing communities for 12 years now. And I have been through multiple situations where people have behaved this way, but nobody's been able to impact the good work that we've managed to do. So this is very important for you guys to remember. We can go on to the next slide, Swati. Yeah. Now let's speak about influencers. We were kind of brushing on this topic yesterday as well. Let's get right into it. We all know influencer marketing is nothing new. I had mentioned Thanda Thanda Cool Cool Navratan Cool Talc yesterday as well, where Shah Rukh Khan was the brand ambassador. And then we had, Pierce Brosnan was the brand ambassador for Pan Bahar. So influencer marketing is nothing new. We've been doing this for ages. Just the concept of influencers have changed, right? Now, while we understand that Navratan Cool Talc bringing Shah Rukh Khan on board, I feel is a very smart move because it was dealing with the masses. And Shah Rukh Khan was a massy actor. That makes sense. But for Pan Bahar, which also deals with the masses, bringing a Pierce Brosnan, who has absolutely no relation with the brand and would surely not be eating Pan Bahar otherwise, is actually very, very weird. So having said that, yeah, it's been happening for a very long time. We think that influencer marketing is a new area of work, but this is where it started. This is how it started. Let's go on to the next slide, please, Swati. We feel that we're doing a very good job of influencer marketing now, but are we? I don't think we are. Let me throw a little light on how brands make mistakes with influencer marketing when they're building their influencer community or when they're building their creator community. Number one is that we're easily swayed by number of followers. The minute you see a brand profile, an influencer profile, and you look at 500K followers, you're like, oh, wow, this person, he's got so many followers. I'm pretty sure he's got a fantastic engagement. I'm pretty sure he's got a fantastic reach. Nobody has any idea on how to track that engagement, how to see what that engagement rate actually is. Very few brands actually go into that much detail. Now they have started. People have learned. But there was a time when nobody, and even now there are quite a few brands who just get swayed by followers. There are a few people who've gotten smarter, but it is still a long way from getting into that space where everyone understands that we have got to focus on engagement and tonality first before any of this nonsense to do with followers. We forget to deep delve into tonality and brand language. This is also very important. right? So Pan Bahar decided, I'm going to bring Pierce Brosnan because he has international appeal. But nobody abroad is going to eat Pan Bahar, and nobody in India knows Pierce Brosnan unless they are from the metros. So when we forget what the tonality of the brand is, and Pan Bahar, I think at some point, I don't know if it was Pan Bahar or Rajnigandha, but at some point someone had brought Shammi Kapoor as a rich fat man. And that made a lot more sense because everyone knew Shammi Kapoor, everyone knows the Kapoor family. So that made a lot more sense, right? So we forget that what our tonality is a lot of times, and we forget our brand language. And that is the opposite of what we are trying to achieve once we do that. We look past demographics, gender, age ratio from our influencer accounts. A very simple question that I always ask my community member when I'm onboarding them is, what is the ratio of age, of gender, and what is your demographic? Where are your followers from? Right? The reason I ask them this is because then I will be able to decide which brand I can collaborate this person with. So someone's going to look like a very simple example. You would see a lot of these pages of women in fashion. And you would think, oh, they are followed by multiple other women. So there's going to be a handbag brand and will come and tell me I want to work with a woman in fashion. Before I bring a woman in fashion on board, I first ask her demographics because unfortunately, in India, a lot of times, these profiles where you're wearing fashionable clothes that are revealing, your follower range mostly consists of these extremely nasty boys and men who are just there to post disgusting comments. And that's just unfortunate, right? But that's how it is. So before you, and that's not going to help you if there is a brand like a Zoe coming on board and telling me that I want to do an influencer collaboration with a creator, and she has to be in fashion, but her followers are only these regular auto walas who are just there to post nasty comments. It makes no sense. So it is important that we deep dive into what are the demographics. If there is a brand that operates only out of Delhi NCR, and I bring him an influencer who's just moved to Delhi NCR and was in Pune before, I'll have to check with that influencer first that what is your follower range. I'm pretty sure that because you've just moved to Delhi, about 80% of your followers will be from Maharashtra. So it makes no sense for me to collaborate with that creator for this particular brand. I can collaborate with that creator, yes, but for a brand that is based either out of Pune or Mumbai or operates pan India. We're willing to put in more money because it's easier, but it's not a long-term solution, right? We'll put our money in this. Yeah, we are getting an influencer. Let's pay the influencer. Oh, wow, look at that reach. We don't realize that that's not a long-term solution. Like I'd mentioned yesterday, the crest and trough funda of a business is never sustainable because every time you need to go up, you're going to be putting in money. So influencer marketing can be a great asset for a community or the brand in general when done right. So these are ways that we forget what needs to be done, and these are things that we ignore when we're taking the influencer marketing approach. However, it can be a real asset if it is done right. Let me tell you how. We can move to the next slide, please, Swati. How do we find the right influencers? Number one is tonality, most important. Is that influencer speaking your language? Does that person understand your tonality? Very simple example would be if I am going to bring an influencer for a brand that deals with organic food, or let's say sustainable clothing, sustainable fashion, I'm going to check if that person actually believes in sustainability. Is that person using glass bottles to drink water or plastic bottles at home? Is that person reusing their products at home or not? Is this someone who buys things and throws them away? Because if it is sustainable fashion, this is not someone who should be wearing plastic or leather, right? These are the things that we have done. That does that person involve themselves with such conversations? When you talk to them, that's when you realize whether they do or not. That's why it's important that you build a friendly bond and understand that person, rather than if you just ask them questions like, hey, this is a sustainable fashion brand and we want to bring you on board. You don't know in that situation whether that person actually believes in this concept or not. So you'll have to start as a friend, understand that person's likes and dislikes, and then decide whether this person speaks the language of the brand that you're bringing them on board for or not. Second is engagement rates. Simple rule of thumb is your 7 to 10% engagement on posts out of total followers. Very simple. If you have 100 followers, there have to be at least 7 to 10 likes and comments. on your post. It's as simple as that. And if it is not that way, then it is that influencer has not got true engagement. There are people who have 100K followers, but if you would go and see their post, there will be 5 likes, 1 comment, right? So that basically means that their followers are all bot followers and that they've just spent money in getting those followers. What it could also mean is that eventually that influencer has lost touch with what they are saying and their followers are not engaging with them anymore. So this is the basic rule of thumb, that has to have 7 to 10% engagement on whatever it is that these people are posting. Next is demographics, audience, age plus gender ratio. Very simple. I've already explained it. You can always ask your creator to share screenshots of what their ratio looks like and they will do it. Always check comments under the post. It is very important to see engagement ho gaya, very good. They have likes, they have comments, but now deep dive into what kind of comments. This is how I realized that with most fashion creators, unfortunately, about 50% of their comments are these nasty comments by men. The remaining would be random comments like, oh, beautiful, queen, sexy. There's nothing to do with, hey, you know what, this is really pretty. I love this look. Where did you get that bag from? Excuse me. So very few would be of that nature. So your last step is to deep dive into comments and actually see whether this creator has an engaged audience or not. Let's go on to the next slide, Swati. Anyone, any questions, please feel free to drop in. Okay, what ways can we approach influencer marketing, right? Like I said, that if it is done right, it can be a major boon to you. See, there are multiple ways to do it. One is go after micro influencers, build momentum over time, right? Which is the community approach, that you go after regular micro influencers, keep getting them on board, keep creating noise about your brand through them, build a community of theirs, and it mostly is done on barter or on a minimal budget. That okay, fine, I'm getting 10 influencers to do content for me this month, so I'm going to set aside 30,000 to give them if needed. Otherwise, I'm giving them product. Simple, like what Mackley used to do. I'd given Mackley's example yesterday. They were sending their nightwear to mothers and children, and these small mom bloggers, 1,000, 2,000 followers, were creating content on a very regular basis, month on month. Second is bigger influencers on contract for a certain amount of time. Needs a larger budget. An example of this is Manyavar, right? They didn't go after community. They said, okay, fine, I'm going to bring like Anushka Sharma and Virat Kohli, and they are my brand ambassadors. Similarly, I think they also targeted South with Ramcharan. So now Ramcharan is also is their brand ambassador. So this is what Manyavar does. A few brands have approached both these techniques in a very smart way. An example, and these are mostly your modern brands. For example, Slurp Farm. Does anybody know about Slurp Farm? Anyone, any idea about Slurp Farm? No? Okay. Slurp Farm is basically a healthy pancakes, healthy food brand for children. So they do your millet dosa, ragi dosa. They'll make your millet noodles and easy to make food for kids. So it was targeting working mothers who want to still feed their children healthy but have limited time to be able to make home food. So what Slurp Farm did was very interesting. Let's go on to the next slide, please, Swati. Yeah. They did something really interesting. When they started out, they knew that they did not have enough budgets to bring a big influencer, and they also wanted word to spread about Slurp Farm in the moms communities, in the metros. So they started with creating recall with the first approach, which is their funds were limited. So they worked with multiple micro influencers in parenting. So hundreds and hundreds of influencers. All they did is they sent them products and said, please make things from this and showcase that your child is eating it. They did not care about how many followers these moms had. They had some women with just 500 followers, so 200 followers. So they took the community approach first and spread the word about them. So this was the first approach. Here are a few screenshots of how Slurp Farm actually targeted moms across cities and got them to post. In fact, Slurp Farm became so popular that it automatically started coming on feeds of mothers. I know Slurp Farm because it started popping out of nowhere onto my feed. I know Slurp Farm because it became the first thing that would come on my feed. It was around the time that my daughter was just born. So, and I was looking out for good products, and this product was all over the place. So I deep dove into how they've marketed themselves. Very community approach. We can go on to the next slide, Swati. Yeah. And once they managed to create this kind of recall, they looped in an influencer as big as an Anushka Sharma, right? Now we've created recall, we've done everything, everyone knows about our brand, we've made money. Now let's solidify and our brand name and image via a big influencer. And Anushka had also just had her child around then, and she was very actively endorsing good products, be it in the sustainability, be it in eco-friendly products. She'd also launched her own vegan brand, and she'd also launched a beauty brand that was non-cruelty. So she decided that she's going to come on board and become brand ambassador for Slurp Farm. This was a smart way to do things, that we've become known. Now let's make sure everyone knows that we are just not someone who's just been getting posts out. We're also someone who's managed to make enough money to loop in a really big star onto our roster. So that's how Anushka Sharma came into the picture, became Slurp Farm's brand ambassador. They also launched another brand called Mille, again with Anushka Sharma, which was for adults who wanted to stay healthy. And that also happened because they saw so much success with Slurp Farm that they, number one, were able to create funds. Number two, realized that they have a niche in this market. Number three, by now, their food technology was on spot because they had tried their product with so many mothers. You got to understand that a community not only is there to create content for you, but also gives you extremely good feedback. So you're always on improvement mode when you have a community that's very tightly knit and along with you. They would constantly keep giving you feedback on what is better, what could have been better, what is not nice. I feel that your noodles are harder. I think they take a lot of time in cooking. These guys kept improvising on feedback from community while also getting content from the community, made that money, brought a really big star on board, also launched another brand in the same area of work. So this was a superb example of how a brand utilized both influencer marketing and community together and solidified its position in the market. It became one of them. Honestly, there is no dearth of people making healthy noodles, healthy pancakes today. But Slurp Farm stood out because of the way in which it approached its community and influencer marketing. So yeah, this was about Slurp Farm. Any questions, guys? Everyone's very silent today. It'll be nice if you guys could also ask me questions so that I can answer them, because otherwise it's all going to go above your head after the event, after this meeting. So please feel free to drop in questions. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Yes. Now, what should you expect from influencer marketing? I get tons and tons of really random expectations from people from influencer marketing. When I get a brand calling me and asking me, can we do an influencer marketing activity? And then they tell me that they want sales from this. How do we call this a successful activity if you're not getting sales? Influencer marketing is a strategy to put your brand on the map. It is a fantastic way to create recall for your brand. It is an activation that you do for awareness. Full stop. Expecting sales from this is stupidity. That's going to set you up for failure and disappointment. I will tell you why in a bit. Regardless of how, whether you have funds or not, start with creating recall with multiple micro influencers. That should always be the go to. When you want to do influencer marketing, make noise. You should understand that number one, the idea is to make noise via this. If you want to amplify the noise that you're making, go after multiple micros instead of one macro. If you want to go for one macro, that one macro needs to be someone really big, like an Alia Bhatt or an Anushka Sharma or a Virat Kohli, and you have to pay them. And you may not have that kind of funds in the beginning. So if you want to make noise with multiple micro influencers, and then build your way up. Once you've created recall, bringing a major influencer on board, number one, becomes very easy, and then you can add credibility to your brand. Get the right person once you've created recall. That will be the smartest way to do influencer marketing, just how Slurp Farm has done, right? Now, sales is a domino effect with influencer marketing. Do not expect it to show immediately. This is very simple. I'm going to explain how you should never expect sales from influencer marketing. Number one is that I'm 100% confident that every time that we have done influencer marketing from brands, sales have come from it. To give you an example, we hosted an event, an entire day of experiences at this really beautiful resort in Delhi. It's called Karma Lakelands. It is a really big property. It has multiple restaurants. They've got a man-made lake in the center where they do boating. There are multiple villas that you can actually buy at the resort where people actually live. It has literally everything under the sky. So we decided that we're going to do an entire day of experiences with 40, 50 influencers. And the entire day of experiences meant that for breakfast, we invited Epigamia. Epigamia came with its yogurts, and we did like a make your own smoothie bowl for breakfast. We followed that up with a plantation walk at one of the forests at Karma Lakelands. The plantation walk was followed by a really hearty lunch. The lunch was curated by the head chef of Karma in collaboration with this brand called Natureland Organics. It's a very popular brand, and it does organic produce like rice, wheat, flour, all of these things. So they came on board for lunch. We followed that up with some time at the pool for all of these creators, where Raw Pressery and Wingreen Farms. So Raw Pressery brought its juices, and Wingreen Farms got its flatbreads and dips. So they took over pool time. And followed by this, we had a really cool cocktail sundowner along with John Distilleries, which brought its unpeated whiskey. So this was an entire day of experiences. Now, while this created a lot of noise, I think we got some 600 to 700 stories during this event. Aside from that, we managed to bring some 50 to 60 reels about Karma Lakelands, about all of the brands that participated. It was a major, major event. And we were still asked by somebody, I think someone was having a conversation with us that very night on how do we manage, how do you think this will get us sales? On that very night, because I was obviously staying at the venue after the event, I realized that there are 5 creators who had attended the event who are also staying at the venue. And they were not staying for free because we did not arrange for them to stay for free. They had paid at an expensive property. They were staying out of payment, and they spent their money. They enjoyed their time and left. So I've actually seen sales directly in front of me. There is a community that we built for a pet food brand called Benny's Bowl. And the reason we discontinued with that brand was because the brand kept asking us on how do we get sales from this. And we said, you are getting sales, but you don't know. And there is no way to track. The reason we can't track is there is no digital footprint. If you've created a community and your community has created content for you, you'll have someone commenting on that post. That person might tell a friend that I saw this reel. It was very interesting. It was about a brand that straightens out curly hair in half an hour. That person who's absolutely unknown, who's heard from word of mouth, is going to go buy the product. Where is the digital footprint to track sales, right? Funnily, the same thing is with TV ads as well. If there is an advertisement on TV, you know that there will be sales from it, right? But there is no digital footprint. Someone saw the ad, went and bought the product. So committing sales from this is something that you cannot track or provide numbers for, which is why it is always a bad idea to do that. You should always remember that the only thing that you need to do out of an influencer marketing or a community building aspect is get lots of content, make lots of noise. That is it. And everything else will follow. Sales is a domino effect with influencer marketing. It does not show immediately. And even if it does, a lot of times there is no digital footprint to track whether it came out of your activation or not. If you want to create a digital footprint, however, one thing you can do is that you could run discount codes in the name of the creator. So you will be able to track how many people have used that discount code. But again, when you're doing discount, it doesn't go hand in hand. When you're doing community marketing, if you're trying to push for sales, it doesn't look authentic. So it's always better that you stick to just making noise and creating awareness via community activations. Yes, Rashmi, please tell me.
I understand that, ma'am, that it's difficult to account for sales. But aside of sales, are there any ways in which you who's handling a brand can tell how well it is working?
Yeah, so we go with, see, the fact that sales is coming into the question is because people in India are used to looking at ROI in terms of money. But that is not how you track and how you derive data out of a community interaction. How you do that is via very clear numbers as well, which is views, comments, reach, and engagement. Those are the only things that you should be looking at when you're doing a community activation. And we send extremely detailed reports to our clients whom we worked with. And Funnily, now 99% of our clients are actually looking for this because your brands also are getting smarter. They also are understanding that, yeah, this is not something that we do for sales. I have an event on the weekend along with Mars Cosmetics. Mars Cosmetics has 200K plus followers on Instagram. And I told them the other day that, listen, the last time we did an event with Pilgrim, they wanted to do discount codes. So do you want to do discount codes? If yes, you let me know and create those discount codes. And Mars came and told me that we are not looking at sales at all. This is an event we are doing for marketing, for awareness. We are only looking at numbers. So your brands are getting smarter. However, if there is a brand or if there is a client that comes to you and tells you that, you know what, I'm looking for sales via this, the first thing to do is to say that this is not what we do. We are not a sales team. We are a marketing team. These teams have different roles. It's very weird that it is still an expectation that marketing directly is going to impact with sales because of the lack of a digital footprint. That expectation in itself is wrong. As far as presenting data is concerned, there are 100 numbers that you track. I go down to the crux of data when it comes to reporting for a brand. I would create a separate slide only for comments that were relevant. For example, that this is a comment which talks about where can I buy this? Can you please respond to this along with a link and maybe a discount to this person if needed? So that is how deep you can go and dive into data. But you'll have to remember that this is a marketing activation, and the only data that should be represented via you, if you're doing community, is reach, comments, likes, shares, the numbers that you see on the platform that you worked on. That's it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I have a follow-up question. That is true for big brands because they have the leeway to possibly, put in some money and test out. But for entrepreneurs like me, who have burned their fingers trying to put money, how do you decide a budget, or maybe let me reframe, what's a good budget for someone who is starting to build a brand?
See, a community activation, if you have to participate in a community activation for a one-time event, for example. So I'll actually ask you a question first. What is your product? What is your business about?
Ma'am, my product is that I'm a baker and I bake for pets. So all fresh bakery items, be it birthday cakes or treats or cupcakes, everything is available on order. I have.
So you're saying if you're a baker, and I've worked with multiple pet brands. In fact, I was working with a brand called Mom and Paw, which deals with fresh food for dogs. And I have also worked with Benny's Bowl. The best thing for someone who's working in this area is actually community. And if I were in your place, what I would do is I would build my community on my own. I wouldn't rely on someone external to do this, because you're dealing with a category which has a very solid sense of they have a very pet parents in general are fantastic communities, right? Because they have this commonality in them that they really love their dog, they really love their pets. And the best way to do community in your case would be, let's just say you have 50 customers who've been very regular with you. You should tie up with a resort, a pet resort. For example, there's a place called Denjan Sim in Delhi. Where are you based out of?
Gurgaon, ma'am.
Yeah, so Denjan Sim, I could connect you with Denjan Sim. You could tie up with Denjan Sim. You could get the food, ask them to give you the space, and invite pets for a pool party. Now I think the weather is not suitable. It's getting cold. No, actually, even now pets can go for a pool party. It's still hot if you're based out of Gurgaon. And that way you can get your 50 customers who are very active with you to this place. You should actually work with brand alliances, not put your own money, but yes, there will be an investment in terms of snacks. But you should be doing a lot of alliances with other young brands that are trying to become big in the pet space. Because once you're able to establish your name with your customers, and once you're able to bring them together and actually showcase that you are someone who genuinely cares for their pets, you would do a very good job of being able to build a community on your own. So if you're talking about what kind of investment you should be looking for, you just need to be looking for investment in terms of your design, to invite these people and your product that you're going to be giving to these people when they come together. You can get Dengensim to help you with the menu for for humans, and you could do the menu for the dogs. So this is something that we've done for Benny's Bowl also in the past with, I'm forgetting the name. There is a very cool place which is in GK. It's also a pet resort, and we were going to do something at Dengensim as well, but the weather was very, very hot that time, so we did not. Ideally, nothing more than 30 to 35K for an event is what I would recommend for you to do. And you should be doing an event once every quarter in the beginning, not more than that. But you should get your retained customers together and actually give them a sense of who you are by meeting them personally and make them your spokes. That is what's going to fly the jet for you. It shouldn't be an external resource doing it for you. Pet communities, I always suggest that the business owner should get into community building on their own. That's the best way to do it. And I would recommend the same thing for anyone doing anything with kids brands or parents brands, because they themselves are parents, and they, when they do it on their own, like what Slurp Farm did, both the founders, both moms, they built their community on their own, spoke to other mothers on their own. So I think as far as investment is concerned, nothing more than 30K a month, but you should be definitely building a very solid community, and eventually then maybe go into influencer marketing as well. But your job will be done only if you're able to interact with people real time and actually be able to present your brand directly to them.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Yes. Barsha, I think you've raised your hand. I'm sorry. Please go on.
Yes. So, ma'am, basically, I wanted to ask when you have mentioned regarding the influencer marketing that one should not expect sales. So, in one of the previous company where I was working, and you can say that one portion of the sales was actually dependent on the influencer marketing and the
Hmm.
amount of promotions that they were doing. So surprisingly, there were few categories who managed to actually earn or get a lot of sales from that, and there were
Yeah.
certain categories who were not able to get that amount of sales. So what is the
Hmm.
reason for this difference? So the company is an academy, so certain
Hmm.
categories, the big categories of Fun Academy were able to get more number of sales, whereas the smaller categories were not able to get a lot of sales. So, any reason why was the difference?
See, first and foremost, if it is a brand like Unacademy, influencer marketing is a great way to get sales. The only reason we don't commit sales is because of the lack of tracking of what came from influencer marketing in terms of sales. We don't know whether sales have come from influencer marketing or not unless we've managed to create a digital footprint, right? So first thing is that if you've managed to get, I believe influencer marketing does get sales. The reason we don't commit sales is because there's going to be a lot of trouble for us in being able to track where that sale has come from. So let's get that out of the way first, that yes, you get sales from it. The problem is that it's difficult to track. That's kept aside. Now, second is that there are some categories that work wonderfully with influencer marketing and some that don't work at all with influencer marketing. And when I say influencer marketing, I'm talking user generated content. It could be community marketing also, right? Where real people are making content for you. Some
Yeah.
categories that work very well with influencer marketing, like I just said, pets works very well with community and influencer. Kids works very well with community and influencer. The reason is that these are categories that rely heavily on word of mouth. If I am a pet parent, I'm a child parent and a pet parent. But every time that I have to buy something for my cats, or if I have to buy something for my daughter, my first idea is not going to be that I'm going to just directly go on Amazon and buy anything. I will first, my way of choosing is I'll go on Instagram and see who all has talked about it. There's a brand called Truvi. I just bought it off of Amazon yesterday. And how I found it's basically a health mix brand for a 2 year for toddlers. So because Bonvita is full of sugar, right? So I don't want to give my child Bonvita. It's ridden with sugar and chemical, which is why I wanted to find an alternative brand. Now I found this because there were multiple recommendations via mums on Instagram about this product, right? And I was confused between two products. This one and Little Joys. And then I realized Little Joys has taken Neha Dupia as a brand ambassador. But when it comes to ratings, Truby is doing a lot better because it has a community. Real people are talking about it on reviews. The other one, Little Joys, people have given random reviews that my child did not drink it. They had the money, they got Neha Dupia, but still it's not a reliable brand, right? So community worked very well for Truby. There are things that work entirely on word of mouth. If you talk about Unacademy also, that's also a category. That's also a category of brands that would work wonderfully on word of mouth. So for you guys, for Unacademy, influencer marketing does wonders. The only thing that may not have worked is, see, the reason an influencer marketing campaign will not work for you is if your tonality of the influencer is not right. It is the only reason an influencer marketing activation will not work. Example, there is a cafe called Uno Mas in Goa, which wanted influencer marketing because it's a tapas cafe. It has seafood pela, it has wine sangrias, it has very modern continental food, right? Now, Uno Mas wanted influencer marketing, and they ended up inviting influencers who were more into your cafes and restaurants in North Goa, which is a very different league. They are very cheap. The food is not, it's excellent food, but it's more street food than something like this. And ultimately, what they were led with, what happened is that they had a barrage of people from North Goa coming in. Now, these people thought that we are getting North Goa people who are not willing to spend. They are buying only cheap things, right? Ultimately, it led Uno Mas to reduce its menu pricing, which they later realized was a mistake because they could have earned more money, but because using the wrong influencers completely changed the dynamic for them. They thought that the kind of people they're attracting are North Goa people, but then they realized that we've only done influencer marketing with North Goa people, which is why North Goa people have come here and they've only bought very, very cheap things at the restaurant, which has caused their money to go down. And they thought that that is what is attractive. And they reduced their pricing. And then they had to revamp their menu again for South Goa, right? So if your tonality of the influencer is incorrect, or if your influencer is the wrong demographic, or if your influencer is the wrong TG, your brand can have there can be major implications in the way that you look at your brand. You will make wrong decisions basis that data, which is why it is important that your influencer is selected smartly. Right now, the example that you're giving me, if there are certain categories that have performed, the first reason would be your tonality of the influencer would be correct. The second reason would be it is a category that works well with word of mouth, right? The ones that may not have functioned well would not have functioned well for these two, either of these two reasons, or maybe both. That number one would be that the tonality is wrong of the creators that you have chosen. And the number two reason is, the second reason is that it is not something that operates out of word of mouth. So these are the two things that you need to rely your influencer marketing campaign upon, right? Beauty brands, for example, heavily reliant on influencer marketing and community, because we don't want to see Katrina Kaif do makeup. She's already beautiful. She wakes up like that, right? We want to see real women do makeup, because then we can see the difference in between their before and after. They don't have plastic skin, right? So that is why beauty brands know that this works for me. Community works for me because it spreads like wildfire. If you know about Pilgrim, it's not a very old brand. And I did an event with them. I realized it's a 15 people team. You know who their brand ambassadors are? They already have had Yami Gautam as their brand ambassador. Now they've looped in, I'm forgetting the name of the actress from Animal. Yeah, I've forgotten the name. The girl from Animal, she's who's been onboarded now. Yeah, Rashmika Mandana. Now she's been onboarded, and these are not exactly cheap actors. For a brand that is just 3 years old, with only 15 people on the team, they've managed to bring Yami Gautam. They've managed to bring Rashmika Mandana. The reason they've managed to do all of this is because they based their product entirely on community. Before they brought these big faces on board, they brought regular women to do the talking about Pilgrim. And it based itself entirely out of community. It's very similar to what Slurp Farm did. And all the new age brands right now are doing this. Their approach is this now. That let's make heroes out of regular people. Let's spread word of mouth. There is a reason they've managed to make that kind of money. They weren't talking about sales in the beginning. They just wanted to make noise. And that led to enough sales eventually for them to be able to afford really big people to come and represent their brands. Right? So if in influencer marketing, coming back to your question, if there are certain categories that have worked and certain that have not worked, the only two reasons that would have happened is, number one, selection of the wrong creator. Number two, intent of that category, whether it is something that will become popular via word of mouth or not. I see a lot of random people coming for influencer marketing. I had a request from ISBM University that I want to do influencer marketing. I said, what is an influencer going to be able to do for you? You need to do community. You need to go speak to multiple students who are in their 12th standard, talk to schools, build your presence in those schools, do an induction in those schools, build your community. That way you will get returns from this. An influencer talking about your college, who is also talking about other colleges in his page, will not bring you anything. It's not something that will happen, right? So these are the ways in which influencer marketing may or may not work. Does that answer your question? I know it can get a little complex and complicated, but let me know if I can clarify it further for you.
Yeah, ma'am. I think it's pretty much explanatory because I remember like we were being pressurized to pressure the influencers in terms of getting more amount of sales. However, I was not able to figure out the reason why the particular category where I was assigned to was not. I mean, the influencers were not able to make sales. So they were actually tracking because they were giving this code with a 10% off wala code, and so
Hmm.
through that code they were actually tracking. And so the category that I was assigned were not making enough sales. In fact, they were making zero sales. But the views
Which
that they were
category
having,
was this, if you don't mind answering that?
yes, 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 ma'am. Yeah.
No, which category was this?
This was for the CA category, chartered account, and also for the state PSC category. So these two categories.
So just imagine a category like chartered accountants is a very difficult category to crack. And if people believe that that is going to happen via influencer marketing, that is actually a very silly expectation. It's not something that people do overnight. If someone wants to be a CA, there is years and years of research that goes into it, years and years of hard work that goes into it. So you'll have to be mindful. It's not like buying a lipstick, right? It's very simple. So big categories of this nature shouldn't be, this I think would have worked much, much more if it had had a community approach, which is of actually building your community, spreading the word through schools or through colleges where this could be an add-on to. But influencers are not going to be able to convert. And the other thing is pressurizing an influencer for sales is also not, that's actually a very silly approach. It's not supposed to be done. Because an influencer, if it's committed to you that he's going to get sales, that person is wrong. Influencers never commit sales because they know that they also cannot track sales. And their job is not to get you sales. Their job is to spread the word about your brand. Right? So it's very self-explanatory. If CA is the category that we were trying to track and crack via influencer marketing, it would never work. Yes.
So, ma'am, how come category UPSC
Yeah.
how come
I
those
can't hear
categories?
you. Your voice is breaking. I'm sorry, Varsha.
Am I audible now? Hello, am I
Yes, you
audible
are.
now?
Yes.
Yeah. So, ma'am, how come categories like NEET, which is for the medical exam, entrance exam,
Hmm.
and categories like UPSC were able to crack that particular marketing?
Because
I
your
mean, were able
needs,
to crack
medical
for.
exam, NEET, all of these categories run entirely on word of mouth. What do school children do? They keep asking each other, Ki, Acha, where are you going? What are you doing? Where do I get these papers from? Where can I enter from? That is an entirely run on word of mouth category, right? वो तो पूरा का पूरा ही it's on word of mouth. Students that or in that age group, they don't listen to parents. They listen to each other. So that category will do fantastically. And also, this is a category of people who are very much into social media. Students, younger students, as CA and all, people who study so much, they are allocating screen time to themselves through the day. So trying to promote them via influencers is not going to be viable at all. Having said that, it could also be because your selection of your creators would have been spot on for this. Because your younger influencers are very, very good with engagement because they're newer. So it all depends on what kind of creator you have picked up. And category wise, I feel NEET, NEET, and all of these things entirely run on word of mouth. So they will pick up for them. You would rather bring influencers or community. But for categories like CA, I strongly feel that an influencer marketing campaign is never going to get them sales. It's not something that happens just because someone's made a reel. That happens after a lot of research. Even if an influencer's made a reel, it's not something that I will immediately transact on. Right? But NEET, NEET, yeah, definitely. I've seen something, oh yeah, wow, this looks interesting, let's check it out. It's easier to convert there. So that is why I personally feel for all of these categories, I think that community would have been a much smarter approach. If it has worked in certain categories, that's great. But CA, I don't even understand how influencer marketing fits the bill. So that must be the reason that those categories have done well, because word of mouth is their backbone. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Understood. Thank you.
Is there anybody else with any questions? Okay, let's go on to the next. I think we're almost through. Yes, this is very simple. I had a prelude about this yesterday as well. But always keep the community experience first. Create influencers and be mindful of the existing ones you bring into your community. Very, very important. Whoever you're bringing into your community, your filter should always be on. You should be on the top of it. You should know whom you're bringing on board, and you should know whom to remove, and you should always know whom to retain and how to retain. So this is how your community is going to solidify over time. That's about it, guys. I think we're through. The session is over. In case there are any questions that you guys have, now's the time to ask. Happy to answer. And we can move on and then do our next session tomorrow then. No, I think we're through. All yours, Avneet, Swati, you guys can take over.
Thank you so much, Megha, for this wonderful session. And ladies, I hope you all enjoyed the session. So if you have some questions, so kindly keep with your questions with you. And tomorrow we have another session with Megha. So we will meet again, Megha, tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you everyone for joining in the session.
Thank
And
you, guys.
ladies, please do your assignments. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.